My hybrid experience. My experience, I've been teaching at Northern Virginia Community College for 18 years, 11 years online through Eli. I taught an occasional alternative delivery format or hybrid many years ago. I had official NVCC hybrid virtual training in 2013, and my first formal hybrid course informed by that training in the fall of 2014. What is a hybrid course? Generally speaking, a hybrid takes 30 to 50% of the class time and moves that online. Students will do this work outside of the classroom, watching video lectures, doing online discussions and such. You also need to clearly distinguish between classroom, hybrid, and regular homework activities. Reading alone is not considered hybrid work, even if it's reading online materials instead of a textbook. In my hybrid course last fall, it was a 50-50 format. We met for 8 weeks. It was a second 8-week course. There were 2 class meetings each week, each of those 75 minutes. There was 2.5 hours of hybrid work each week, another 75 minutes between class meetings. In addition to that, there was the standard 6 to 12 hours per week for regular homework and study outside of class meetings. Generally, the 3 to 6 hours being the norm for a 16-week class. Since this was an 8-week course, that's doubled. So students' expectation would be at least 9 hours of work per week outside of the class meetings. And I did also incorporate the flipped approach in format or an active learning in the class sessions. Pacing the work is important. Each class session was the equivalent of 1 week of a 16-week course, and since again it was an 8-week course, there were 2 sessions per week, so we covered 2 weeks worth of work in one 8-week course. Basically, I took the pacing from my 8-week course and translated that into my hybrid campus course. Half of that work was done by students outside of class meetings. I had them watching video lectures, most of those off of YouTube. They completed content-related quizzes on Blackboard between each class session. That was considered an entry ticket to the class session. And they also completed a journal related to the content with comments and questions. And they did that on Blackboard as well, and that too was their entry ticket. My preparation on a weekly basis was to review and provide response to new journal posts as they came in, and also just before class time I would go on Blackboard and check the grade center to see which students had completed both of their entry tickets, the quiz and the journal for that class session. Students who were not prepared, if they came into the classroom, I would send them off to the computer lab to do there what they were supposed to do at home. In planning and preparing for this hybrid course, I started by identifying suitable video lectures on YouTube. I was lucky enough to find that another professor had posted a whole series of videos that basically repeated much of what I would have said in a classroom lecture. So I was able to use many of the videos that were already produced. On occasion when there wasn't such to suit my needs, I created my own, and that would be an entire different workshop, but a whole discussion as to how to translate PowerPoint to video, as I'm doing here. And those video lectures substituted for in-class lectures. So I didn't do lecturing in the classroom. We did active learning. I also then needed to group and distribute these video lectures across each week, each session, so that there would be no more than 75 minutes worth of video lectures to view between the class sessions. I also created quizzes for each period of at-home study. So these were for individual practice and self-assessment. They served as an entry ticket to the class sessions, and they were also included as part of the student's grade. That just further encourages them to get it done. These quizzes were done in Blackboard, and they were all objective questions, so the students received an immediate grade as soon as they hit submit. I allowed them to do these quizzes as many times as they wanted, and trying to get the best grade possible. I did count the highest grade for each quiz, and the quizzes were basically the same questions that appeared on the final exam, so they were further incentive as a way of preparing for the final exam. And I also set up the journal in Blackboard, where students would reflect on the new content, pose questions to address in class, thus demonstrating their preparation for the class session. And again, the journal as well as the quiz were the entry ticket to the class session. In preparing the course site, I put links to material, the online videos, reading, etc. on Blackboard, and I put those on my own academic website, and I made a clear distinction between what to read, what to watch, what to do, and resources, and I specified the due date for each of these activities. What students were to watch and what they were to do constituted the hybrid work that substitutes for what would have been done in the classroom in the regular course. So this is the website that I set up: read, watch, do, and resources. I don't know if you could see that in the video, but I also set up the Blackboard assignment submission links and the Grade Center. Some assignments can be submitted on paper or through Blackboard. Other assignments use SafeAssign and are only accepted through Blackboard. The quizzes and journaling also were done through Blackboard. And I set up a discussion board, which was used for some assignments instead of classroom discussion or otherwise student presentations. Just before the class began, I opened the Blackboard course site, and I emailed students at that point to let them know the course site was available for preview and encouraged them to get started early. In fact, a few students actually submitted their first assignment before we even met the first time, and so I was very pleased to see that. The first class session, I did make absolutely clear to students the time requirement. I emphasized the work to be done at home, the first entry ticket, which was a syllabus quiz, and videos to watch for the second class session, and journaling that was to reflect on what they watched in those videos, and any reading that had to be done as well could be journaled as well. The in-class work, there was a lot of small group activity. Almost every session we had some kind of small group activity. This might have been practice with a review of the content, reviewing study guide questions in small groups, and then each group sharing with the class, or some other practice activity. I did address questions that had been posted in the journals and discussed difficult material based on those journal comments, and I did actually make a practice of taking select comments and my answers and posting those as announcements in the course site, and I would reference the course site announcements in class, make sure I was covering everything I wanted to address, and then after class those announcements would become available for students to view on their own after the fact. I would also in class explain and remind of upcoming assignments and work that was to be done at home. There were no formal exams. I had a final exam that was done at the students' scheduling in the testing center during finals week. There were some essays that they were to write, which I told them to think of as open book take-home exams. Finals week, our meeting during finals week became an informal potluck chat and chew / review session for the final exam. And in fact, I was surprised that while attendance there was optional, most of the students who've been coming on a regular basis showed up to that, and we had a nice time. Student response. At midterm, I did ask for some informal response. How's it going? And some of the comments I received actually spontaneous, unsolicited. Just after 2 class sessions, one student commented in an email that this is the most structured hybrid course I've taken, and you have definitely provided many resources. I am enjoying it. So that was a boon to me just two sessions in. The midterm feedback, I found that some students resented having to be more active in their learning process. One comment even noted that the student felt that they paid good money to be taught by the teacher rather than having to, quote, teach himself by viewing video lectures at home. And some students actually do not prefer group activities in class. A few students actually wanted time for private reflection or to hear more from the professor. Some few students said that they want formal lectures. My response was to back off a bit on some of the active learning and small group activities. I did have some sessions that incorporated more talking just from me, some mini lectures, but in fact I think there was one session where we had absolutely no small group discussions, and it was more the traditional teacher talks the whole 75 minutes, and I really didn't like doing that. There were just 2 or 3 students who raised a hand, made a comment, asked a question, but most of the students, as typical in my traditional lecture courses, would just sit there with blank faces on their blank stares on their faces. I didn't know if they were involved, paying attention, or what have you. So I much preferred when, at least for 10-15 minutes, we had some kind of small group activity in addition to whatever I might have to say. Student responses from the end of semester evaluations. This was both a hybrid and an 8-week course, so the pace to cover all the content was almost frenetic. It took a lot of time outside of class, but we were warned at the beginning about the effort that was going to be needed to be expended. It was well worth it. The instructor was very, very organized, both in class and especially using Blackboard. I don't think the class would have been successful without an instructor who was so experienced in both content and delivery. I was so glad to have taken this course. Another student comments, do not take hybrid class in 8 weeks along with other classes. And I have to agree with that observation. My completion success rate in this course, out of 23 students, 15 of them got a C or better, so that's a 65% success rate. There were 3 W's, 3 withdraws, 3 F's, and 2 D's. For comparison, the last time I taught this course as a regular campus course in the spring of 13, out of 21 students, I had 13 students pass with a C or better, 62%, so that's fairly comparable. That course we had 2 withdrawals, 4 F's, and 2 D's. And again, for comparison, my 100% online Eli Shared Services Distance Learning course from the fall of 14, the same semester I did the hybrid course, Abysmal, I'm embarrassed to say. Out of 23 students combined across all sections of that, only 8 of them passed with a C or better, 35% success rate. I had 11 withdrawals in my online course, 3 Fs, and 1 audit. Apparently a lot of students who sign up for online learning, we do have a much higher withdrawal rate from these courses. A lot of those who sign up for online learning do so for the wrong reasons. They're not really cut out for self-directed learning. They apparently would do much better in a hybrid, if not a regular campus course. So this is just an anecdote here, but research has shown that hybrid success rates are generally in line with, if not better, than regular campus courses. And my one experience thus far has paralleled that evidence. Lessons that I've learned. Don't try and do a hybrid in just 8 weeks. The amount of work that students need to do outside of class is doubled in an 8-week course, and it's that much more doubled when they have to add the hybrid amount of hybrid work as well. And I would make journal entries due earlier. I had a deadline of 1 hour before the class session. Often a lot of students waited until hours, if not minutes, before the deadline to post their journal entries, and naturally I did not have time to review those before the class session. So I would look at them after class, and I discovered some of them were off topic, and thus I did not give them credit for that. The journal entries were graded. Basically that was considered preparation grade, and I would not have counted it if it was off topic and I'd seen it beforehand. The ones that I did get to see before class, those are the ones that I was prepared to comment on in class. So if I had an 11 a.m. class, I would, for my purposes, I would make the journals due by 6 p.m. the evening before the class session. But whatever time frame works for you, you want to make it as late as possible for the sake of the students, but early enough so you can review them and be prepared to respond in class. NOVA also just prefer or even requires that we use the Blackboard site for all of the course materials in a hybrid course. I did not do that this time around. I am preparing another hybrid for this current semester upcoming, and I am putting all the video links and other directives and resources in the Blackboard course site. Although I feel that if it doesn't require use of the Blackboard itself, if this is material that's found out there on the web, on YouTube or where have you, I don't feel that students should have to log into Blackboard to access this material. So I'm going to just go ahead and duplicate what's in the Blackboard on my own website. Students can go either place, but it will all be self-contained in Blackboard as well. Another lesson, I would try and vary the classroom activities so as to satisfy all learning styles. Like I said, some of the feedback, some students do not like to work in groups. Some of them like more private reflection time. I might just do pair, share, think kind of activities. Think, pair, share. Or just prepare some mini lectures, but really that, I think, for me was the hardest thing, is to not slip back into my full-blown lectures. And one reason why I'm doing this presentation as a pre-recorded video lecture is so that it goes faster and we can spend more time actually doing some active activities in the classroom, in the room together. I also highly recommend the 3-week NOVA Hybrid Professional Development, and it is in fact required to complete this prior to teaching your hybrid course. I gained a lot of good, valuable insights and ideas from that, and one in particular was the distinction between regular classroom, hybrid work, and regular homework, and making clear and learning how to take some of that classroom time activities and move them out of the classroom online, replacing them with more active learning outside as well as inside the classroom. Some resources for you to find out more about teaching a hybrid course at NOVA. If you go to the NOVA website, academics/hybrid, you'll be able to select the learning about it from a faculty perspective, and they also at that same resource have a resource for students, and I actually incorporated this link in my syllabus so that students who were not familiar with having a hybrid course would be able to go there to learn what's expected. I did the very first day of class survey my students, and I asked them, one, how many of them had taken a hybrid course before, and most of them raised their hands. In response to that, I also asked how many had taken an 8-week course before, and slightly fewer of them raised their hands for that one. And at that point, then I know that this is not only a hybrid course, this is also done in 8 weeks, and that's going to lead to a lot more time required of you outside the classroom. So now it's time to hear from you. What are your questions, your comments? And then we'll do some think, pair, share. What kind of work would you think of as hybrid versus regular homework? What classroom activities would you move online? And if you've taught hybrid before, what's been your experience teaching a hybrid course?